Hi, ladies. Welcome back. This is the final week. Congratulations. You made it. Yay.
We made it.
Yay. Yay. It's been such a journey with all of you all and all of you ladies. Just journeying through this book of Acts. It's been just so wonderful. So I'm just going to say again, I'm Keely Embleton. I'm part of the women's team and also the writing team. And then
my name is Helena Fuentes, and I was part of the writing team this year as well.
Jenny Marie Cisneros, and I wrote the gate.
yay.
And then Becky Thompson.
So let's just dive in. We're inviting you to this last discussion of going deeper and kind of deconstructing how we think and all the topics that we just couldn't fit into this study and all the thoughts that we have as writers for the study, but also just as followers of Jesus. So I'm just going to start right off, January, as the writer this week. What impacted you the most writing this week?
So many things. I think Becky was right. Maybe it was last week when she said we could have spent years even unpacking everything in the books of Acts, and I still think that's true. And so as a writer, there was so much more that I just wanted, even I had the privilege of just wrapping things up and not really starting anything new, but just tying up kind of the ends from the first 7 weeks. And what really impacted me most, actually there's several things. But I will say
It's your week.
As
I
I was thinking them through, processing them, I think we kind of started, I think Acts in general gets kind of this kumbaya kind of feeling, like we're all in this together, like, everyone sold their possessions and we're this kind of thing. And in reality, that may be how it started, but it's just life, just like our life here. Things got messy. People held back money. There was infighting between people. They thought things should be done one way or another. I mean, and the disciples went out and they were persecuted, like real-time persecution. Like, they were beaten and jailed, and eventually all but John were murdered because of the gospel in horrific ways. And so I just want to circle back to that kind of reality, I never want to forget the responsibility that we have, or that just because it gets messy that we can stop. I think we think back to but the people in Acts had it all together. They met and they sang and they worshiped, and while they did, it's still real life. Think about just even within our own families, life gets messy, it gets hard because we're doing life so close to each other. Think about who gets on your nerves the most. It's probably the person who lives in the house. Right? So when you're doing life that kind of, and so that really resonated with me as I wrapped it up. I thought it would be important to mention that when things get harder, things get messy, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. More probably that you're doing it right, and to persevere and press through on that.
That's so good. That's so good. And I think it's safe to say too that I think sometimes we get in the mentality too, we think of the disciples or the apostles, they're like, well, they walked with Jesus, but Paul didn't necessarily, he didn't walk with Jesus, so it got messy. And then we think of Timothy and all these, and it's just like us, they were empowered by the Spirit and by the good news of the kingdom, but it did get messy, and life on life is messy. One week what we talked about, I don't know if we mentioned, but the forming, storming, norming. We storm each other and we pull back the layers, and it's hard. So how do we, as followers of Jesus, implement, what Jesus taught the disciples on a day-to-day basis? What does that look like for you guys? What do you think of that?
Well, I think community is the biggest thing. I read a book, I've probably read it 5 times. It's called Spiritual Multiplication in the Real World by Bob McNabb. And it's kind of a heady book, kind of academic. But man, I mean, the essence of it is, first of all, multiply, but for the kingdom purposes. But you can't be successful if you do it alone.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do this on your own, you're just going to revert back to your old ways. And you can't. You have to do it in community where there's encouragement, those things. So what you were just saying, the forming, storming, norming, we do this together. It's messy, but you have to do it. And I was with a group of people recently, and we were debriefing kind of our community time and saying okay, what's next? What are we going to do? And everyone was like, I can't take what I just learned and go off and do it myself. We got to stay in community. Didn't we just learn that we got to stay in community?
Yeah. And it helps you stay in with accountability. You know what I mean? It gives you accountability.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. And I think I have just a dream, and I've had this dream for a while, and it's actually kind of starting to come to fruition a little bit. And it's not really even me. So it's others have caught on, or it's rubbing off. I don't even know how to say it. But we have such an opportunity, even here at Central, as women who are passionate about the local church and serving and all of the things that we do. There are so many people that walk onto our campus every single weekend. There's a lot, by the way. Like, I know the numbers, okay?
New,
There's a
yeah.
lot of new people.
Lots of
And
new people.
they come in and we can dissect all the reasons why they're here and why they choose to come and where they embedded, all that jazz. But at the end of the day, our first goal should be to get them into community. And we try really, really hard with that. But we've tried something recently that's starting to work that someone actually did. We were talking about it, and this gal, my friend of mine, actually did it, which was serving at New here, which is our starting point, our guests, right, for Central. And when they came, instead of saying, okay, have a good service, and someone's gonna follow up with you, and go to Discover More, which are all great things, right?
Those are great things.
She said, hey, I'm having a party this afternoon at my with my friends. Why don't you come? And we did this as a group. We had the party, and 6 guests came.
Awesome.
6 guests came. Actually, it might be 7.
I love it.
5 that came were at Central that very first day came to our party, and the 2 from the previous week. But it's and immediately, and guess what? Now we're reading the Bible together. Not with all of them, but some of them are returning to read the Bible with us.
Wow.
It's so powerful.
Because
What
now they
happens
have
when you're
someone
invited?
that they know, they feel welcome. If they see, they can say hi to, and they just
They feel seen.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. We want to feel seen, and as we talked about last week, church is not in a building; it's within each of us as a community and as we gather. And so, how can we, as followers of Jesus, help others who are not yet in the kingdom feel seen and known and invited in, and not just to a building, but on a day-to-day basis? I love that.
And
That's
all
so
of
great.
this is how we be the church.
Yes.
So everything, and community is a huge, huge, huge part of it. So that's my answer to your question. It's kind of long.
And we have to create that space to be able to do that. I think we jam pack our schedules and with all kinds of things that when we're not leaving margin for those kinds of things to happen, then we won't have that opportunity to do those things. And I'm speaking to myself.
Me too.
But I just, when I look at a calendar and you see a blank day, do you automatically try to fill that with something, or do you leave it for those opportunities? How many times are we trying to rush to the next thing and kind of rush people through instead of just? I had coffee with a friend the other day, and man, it was hours. We sat. She lives across the street, you guys. And I hadn't seen her in forever,
But we can
And-
so relate to
and,
this.
yes,
This
we
is so
can.
good.
And
We
we
can.
went and we just and it was so great to have that, to just to spend that time to encourage each other and just to catch up and stuff like that. So I think that's great, and also just margin.
Yeah. I love what you said about margin. It reminds me of a story, and actually, I don't think I've shared this story with you yet. So, it actually happened last week, and guys, it gets me. So if I cry, I'm sorry. But I was driving my boys to Taekwondo, and we live in Tempe, so we see a lot of homeless. And I was driving down rural. It was rural, and the 60 right there where you get off the freeway, and there is a lady there, a homeless lady, and she had a sign, and I was going north, and she was on the south side, so I just saw the sign, but it said, I sometimes feel like I'm invisible.
Oh my god.
It didn't even, she wasn't even begging for money, guys. It says, I sometimes feel like I'm invisible. Do you see me? And it had a question mark. And I just guys, I couldn't, I know, I was I can't do this. And I felt margin, I'm running late to get my boys to Taekwondo, and I felt like God saying, you need to flip around and let her know she's seen. And I was I'm running late.
Your boys are going to do
And
extra
my
push-ups.
3 boys are in there, and they have to put on all their sparring gear, and no, she's seen. So what do? I flip around, and I'm I know it's dangerous. I put on my hazards. I roll down my window. I'm hi. I see you. My name's Keely. What's your name? Her name's Linda. I said, how can I pray for you today? I don't have water on me. I don't have any snacks I usually carry, but she just said you stopping and speaking to me has been the best part. I know. And so when you say margin, that's what it takes sometimes. It takes that, and I'm thinking this lady's homeless and she feels that way. So how many of us and other people out there feel that way, even when they come to a big building and a big church?
It's intimidating.
Yeah, or new in the neighborhood. Do people see me? Am I seen? And I know God sees us. Created and formed us. So, but how do we as followers of Jesus let them know that? It's just so hard sometimes. And I had that voice saying, no, you know.
Yeah.
So speaking to myself all the time. Create that margin. So hard.
Being a disciple takes intentionality. And so we don't make it a priority or intentionality or set the time aside for it to happen. It's not going to happen because we just live in a culture where we can just fill up with all kinds of different things.
Isn't that how the enemy works too?
That's exactly how the enemy works.
Well,
And they can be good things. They can totally
Yeah.
be good
Good
things. We could fill it up with doing 4
Yeah.
Bible studies in a day, but if we're not going to go and do,
And
And
legit, I think the enemy does that too.
Yeah.
He does.
Like he's like, oh, you think
Yeah.
this is good
Yeah.
stuff, and
this is great.
and you feel like it is. Because
Yeah.
it is 4 Bible studies, but let's be
Yeah.
real.
yeah.
Well, I think there was something I read once, and it said, like when the devil can't make you sin, he makes you distracted. And it's like all the busy things that you come in life, but then it also plays with the other side of saying yes. Saying yes to I'm going to come to that barbecue. I really don't want to. I don't know anyone. I feel so nervous. All of these things. But what if you don't? But what if you do? What if you do and you make friends and then now it starts this ripple effect and you just gotta say yes sometimes. Just try it.
I think of all the times that I said yes when I was scared, and they've all been fruitful. Like showing up to the moms for the first time when I didn't know anyone, or saying yes to teaching a Bible study, or writing.
She wasn't rolling her eyes.
Or just the things that I've said yes to, like where people see something in you, or just going to an event all alone or stuff. Some of that accountability does have to fall back on us for where we're doing things, but then as believers, remembering what that felt like and making other people feel. Something else that really stuck out to me is just the way that Jesus just poured into the 12. Like I think for me, I tend to think like big and impactful, and if it's not impacting something big or huge, is it worth it? Is it like worth my time to just like all these things? And I'm just being real and honest. Like I kind of weigh that against kind of things that I'm doing. But Jesus poured into 12. Like that was his group. That was his circle. He went out and discipled to other people and all of that stuff. But he spent his time with the 12, pouring into them, so then they can go and to pour into others. And I think about that. I was talking before the camera started rolling. How then those 12 disciples spent 3 years together with each other and that accountability. But then they went off in their own direction and to rebuild kind of those teams, pouring into those. And I just think about us here. We get comfortable with our small group of 15 years or 20 years, but have we created an empty space, or have we broken up and gone and being those out and being those disciples? Like what does that look like? And I know women are starting to shift, like as they're listening to this, because I know like I have
You're
that
making
same
them
thing.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, because I get uncomfortable thinking
Good.
about that
Do
too.
it.
Or if you're being, if you've been attending the same Bible study, which I'm not saying those things are wrong; those are great. Just like we talked about last week, coming back to the church and being with the church is important. But then you have to think about, okay, now what am I doing? Have I invited someone new in? Have I started something? Have I started a new Bible study and welcomed like new people in? What does that look like? And these are questions still that I
Well, the
have to
things you
wrestle.
miss out if you don't try new things.
Yeah.
You'll never know all the great
Amen.
opportunities or all the great yeses if you don't
Or
try.
even like, have I stepped up to lead in some capacity
Yeah.
because I've sat as a participant for so long, but like
Maybe
you
I
need
could
to
do it.
get out and like move and be a part of the body, like disciple.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not easy. So like we
It's
learned
not
that in the book of
scary.
Acts with the disciples and the messiness that we're talking about, like all those things, like they had that time with Jesus, like you're just talking about, and learning and all those things. But when they stepped out, it wasn't necessarily easy. It didn't come natural. They got it wrong in some ways.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
so we've got the perfect model to tell us that, man, pick yourself up and try again. And you don't have to get it perfect, and no one's expecting that of you.
Yeah.
But we do expect that you try.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
are obedient to how you feel the Lord is calling you, and then doing it.
Yeah.
So
And I love it. I don't even know if we talked about this, but I love it in the book of Acts when we think, when we say it's messy too, and that we split off, and but we don't let some of those divisions like hold us back from still being obedient to what God's called us to. I think of Paul and Barnabas, guys, just like there was a great divide there, but like they didn't let that stop. They're like, okay, we can agree to disagree on this, and Paul was like, I'm going to take these people and go this way, and Barnabas is like, I'm going to take these people and go this way, but we're still going to do what Jesus has called us to do.
Do you ever wonder, I think this sometimes, of just stuff in the Bible, like, did did the Lord need to like insert a little bit in there so that way they would be
Yeah,
split
so they're
to
not like a
different
holy
directions?
huddle.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
totally.
mean, we are so prone to that, and so I
Mhm.
wonder if that's like an example for us when we read scripture. Like, we can't be like this. We have to actually like
Yeah.
go out and had. I don't know. I just wonder.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. How else are we supposed to go to the ends of the earth? If we're, I mean, how much faster can we get there if we like divide and conquer? That's
Yeah.
a favorite in our household. If you have multiple
Divide
kids,
and
you're very
conquer.
familiar with divide and conquer.
Conquering for the kingdom.
Yes,
Yes,
but
yes.
this is the conquer. Yes, conquering for the kingdom. I love it.
Yeah.
How all the disciples go out to the ends of the world and even ask like kind of, and God's equipped us all differently with unique gifts, and I talk about this all the time. It's going to look different for us, just like when we talked about what's our role in going. They're all going to be different, and that's okay. It's
Right.
okay to not all be the same.
Mhm.
But then, like, the people with whom I go and disciple to may not necessarily be who God's calling you to go and disciple to.
Yeah.
I find a lot of times we kind of like want to. Our family moved a couple years ago into a place, and we moved our kids' schools. And anytime I told a story, people would justify why they're not doing that. And I was like, "That's okay. Like, I don't want to be here either. This is what like God had called us to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not
Yeah.
like God has a plan and a purpose for you."
Mhm.
And so we need to make sure that we are very connected. I know this was a study on Acts, but it's just so much, when you read through the Gospels, it's like being connected to the vine, being connected to Jesus, and like being able to feel and recognize the Holy Spirit and the voice of God. Like, all of those things are important, and that's really what stood out to me when I'm reading the books of Acts. They spent that time with Jesus, and they continued return. Like, Jesus modeled that for him. He went off to places of solitude. He still prayed to his Father. He still did all those things. And so if we're wondering why maybe like that's not happening, like, how much time are we really spending with the Lord? Like, are we listening to where he's sending us to go? Like, or even making the margin for you to like sit and wrestle with,
Yeah.
okay, God, you're telling me to do this, and we get to make that
Yeah.
decision.
He gave you an opportunity.
Yeah.
Did you say no, or
Yeah.
are you thinking
You
about
say
it?
yes.
Or
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, I think sometimes our lives are so busy we don't even hear it.
You don't.
We don't
You
even
know,
get
it's
the
so loud.
opportunity to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Everything else is so loud.
I did this exercise a couple years ago when I was going through a training program to be trained to live overseas, and part of it was set a timer for every 2 minutes, and every 2 minutes you stop and pray. And so
Interesting.
the whole day, and we did it for a whole week, and guys, it was life changing for me. So life changing, and in so many ways. Like, during this journey, I was not married, and I didn't have kids at this time, so obviously I'm like, wow, I had a lot more time. But we do what we can. But I just remember distinctly, I worked in downtown Phoenix at this time, and the stopwatch went off, and I was walking across the crosswalk, and I stopped to pray. I was praying, and I heard the voice of the Lord say, "Stop." So I just stopped, and I'm like right in the middle of this crosswalk, and a car ran a red light, guys.
Oh my goodness.
So, but I'm like, I've been doing this for 3 days, and so now I'm way more in tune with the Holy Spirit, and I'm able to obey immediately. And I'm like, it saved my life there. Like, it led me to this lady who I'm like, you're seen. But there's so many times where it's so noisy that I just can't. So there's times in my life, like like back in 2020, where I had more time at home. Like, I'd set the timer again, guys. And it's important to be connected to the Father, and then to be obedient to what we've been called to do. So it really is. And I'll say this, I think you said this before, Becky, too, when we talk about the gospel going forth to all the ends of the earth, like, we think, oh, that's such a difficult job. Like, there's so many people still unreached, and there's so many places. But like Coke does it.
Coca-Cola products.
Yeah.
So
I know. If Coca-Cola can get in every single country, village,
I
etc.
just need to slap a Bible verse on that.
Let's do it. We could just I
Right?
don't know how to do it. But no, I mean, like, we've traveled, and there's Coke everywhere, multiple types. Coke Zero now is everywhere.
Yeah.
So my husband spent time in Sudan. Coke, like, it's everywhere. And I'm a Coke fan, so notice I'm not talking about Pepsi.
yeah.
For Mother's Day, everything I got was Coke products. Socks, like, I actually Diet Coke is my thing. But it's true. Like, if Coke can figure this out, come on. We are a part of the best and longest run organization in the world, which is the body of Christ. And so, how have we not figured this out?
Well, and you know what I like is when you're being called to do something, it's almost never what you think we're supposed to do.
Yeah, right.
I was supposed to be a special ed teacher. What am I doing here? Like, and it's like, okay, like, I never imagined this is what I would be doing. And he's put me here, and it's like, okay, So
Yeah.
you got to be open-minded for sure.
I think also it's important to note like the power of one. Like I said, things are so, and so when we're thinking about this and we're wrapping this up, it's like really important to think about like who's your one, like who's that one
Amen.
person that you can like pour into, and it's like we're building the kingdom through kind of ripple effects. Like is there one person that you can pour life into? Like we should always have someone who's pouring life into us and someone who we can pour life into.
Amen.
We can continue to do that, and sometimes these seasons are short, sometimes they're long, whatever, or however that works, but it doesn't, we don't have to be a Bible study teacher or be or have a platform or anything. We do this in our everyday lives. Like just think about, do you go to the grocery store once a week, we all have them, our favorite checkout tellers, right? Like we go through the line and stuff, like how can we be a light to them? Like have we asked them more than just have we even asked them their name? Have we asked them like how are they really doing? Like I have to make myself think back small, because my brain tends to go to the big, and then I get overwhelmed, and I'm like, well, I can't. Like, it's impossible to do this. But we each have the ability to impact one person, and so, and that causes the ripple effects, because we don't know. Like, I may be a prayer here, but the one person that I disciple to may be a person who ends up going and discipling to, and they may start off as a non-believer, but we don't know that unless we're obedient and sharing the gospel here.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like we've got two big things we're supposed to do
Yes.
at the end of the study,
Yeah.
which is find our one, and then I think we should all try what you just said about the timer
Yeah.
and being intentional. Like,
2-minute timer.
I mean, maybe not a whole week.
No,
I don't,
just
or a
do
week.
it.
I don't know. That'd be
mean,
weird in
just-
the middle of the meeting. Excuse me.
Just a day.
But
Just a day.
just try to do it for a day.
For a
Like
day.
maybe on the Sabbath. Like take
Yeah.
a day where you already have less going on.
Mhm.
Hopefully, we all try to practice that. And
And you can do it 2 minutes, you can do it 5 minutes, you can do it 10 minutes, whatever.
I think you'd be surprised. In the
Yeah.
multiply group that we've talked about, we start off every time with 1 hour of prayer. And the first time was like 1 hour of prayer. Like, what are we doing? It's like daunting and stuff. But every time, it's just like just silencing your body and silencing the whole world to pray. And every time, like the hour felt too short, and every time you can hear the emotions in people praying. Like, look, I can't even tell you how many times there were tears, and they weren't just mine, people. They were definitely mine, but they weren't just mine. Like, it's because your body's connecting with the Spirit. You're finally allowing yourself to do that, and so that would be so cool.
So I think that's great. I think that's a great place for us to wrap up our time here today. And we just want to challenge you. Take those challenges that we just talked about, do them, live them, act out on them, because we as followers of Jesus should be doing these things.
Yeah.
And I just thank you so much, ladies, for coming together and talking about this. And I thank all of you ladies for joining us this summer for Be the Church. And we hope it challenged you. We hope you felt deeper in love with the scripture, deeper in love with the church and what the church actually can look like. And we hope it activates you up and out of your seats to get involved, whether that's joining a serving team at church, or Bible study, or stepping into different roles, getting out of your comfort zones, finding what of the 5 roles are you a part of, and or maybe that's getting ready and going overseas, but just be obedient to the call that God has put on your life, and to create the spaces where we can be in tune with Him to do those things. So
awesome.
all right, thank you, ladies. We so appreciate you. Have a great rest of your summer.